So today I'm going to be making oxtails, and so I'm going to show you guys all the stuff that you're going to need for this. So first, we have a yellow onion. We have some fresh thyme, green onion or scallion. I don't know what you guys call them, but scallion. A green bell pepper. We have some curry powder. You're only going to use a little bit of this, so don't be afraid. Just a little bit. Some browning. Here is a can of butter beans. My crushed garlic, of course. Some ginger. Oxtail seasoning. Also, if you have the powder oxtail seasoning, you can use that too. I ran out, so I'm only going to use this today. Here is the allspice pimento seeds. Garlic powder. Ground black pepper. My all-purpose seasoning that I love. You're going to need some ketchup, some salt, and then of course you're going to need the oxtails. This is about, I'm going to say 3 pounds of oxtails. So of course you use however many you want, but this is about 3 pounds. So I'm going to show you how I season it, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator to marinate for about 2 hours. Okay, so we're going to start seasoning. I have my oxtails here. I just cleaned them and rinsed them off. All you need is a little vinegar and warm water. Rinse them off a little bit, and then you're good. You can also use lemon juice to clean them. So first what I'm going to do is add in my all-purpose seasoning. I'm going to add in the oxtail seasoning. And like I said, if you have the powdered seasoning, add a little bit of that in there too. I just ran out, so I'm just gonna use this. Also, I'm gonna add in my garlic powder. I'm gonna add in my ginger. I'm also gonna add in about 3 or 4 of the allspice pimento seeds. With those, I'm gonna add in my curry. Now for the curry, you do not add a lot. You don't want this to taste like curry. You just want a little bit in there. And then I'm gonna add my browning. Now this just gives it that brown color. Add a little bit of that in there. And here I have my chopped garlic. So now what you're gonna do is give that a really good mix. Okay, so here I have all my veggies, the green bell pepper, the onion, the thyme. I have a scotch bonnet pepper, and then my scallion. I'm going to add that all in and mix it up. Okay, so I have all the veggies mixed in there, and you want to make sure that every piece of meat has that seasoning on it. And now what I'm going to do is cover this tightly and put it in the refrigerator and let it marinate overnight, or at least 2 hours. You want to make sure you let it marinate at least 2 hours, if not overnight, so it can come out tasting real good. Okay guys, so it's been actually about 5 hours that I have mine marinating. If you forget to marinate them overnight and you remember in the morning, just get up and do it really early and leave them for as long as you can before you start cooking them, you know, so they'll be marinated enough for dinner time. So first what I'm going to do is I have a big pot here, and I have a little bit of oil just at the bottom heating up. And now what I'm going to do is, I forgot to add this ingredient in the beginning, but you're going to need just a little bit of brown sugar, and this is optional. I'm going to add that to the bottom of this. Let me do just a little more, and you're going to stir that. Just a little more because I have a lot of oxtails here. And you're gonna see it start getting a lot more brown and kind of clumping and sticking together. That's what you're looking for. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, I have this on about medium heat, is I'm going to add my oxtails in, but just the oxtails. Leave the seasonings behind, like the green pepper, the onion, the scallions. Leave those behind for now. And you may have to do 2 batches. That's totally fine. So I'm going to try to fit as many as I can in here. And then I'll just put the rest and rotate. All of mine are not going to fit, but what I'm going to do is I'm still going to just add them and just rotate them around so that I don't have to do 2 batches. Just remember to leave as much of the veggies behind for now as you can. So once you have all the oxtails in the pot, this is what you'll have left, and you're going to save this because we're going to use this. Okay, so I had these searing on one side. It's been about 3 or 4 minutes. So now what I'm going to do is flip them. Now oxtails are a very tough cut of meat. These have to cook for quite a while for them to be tender and falling off the bone. This is not a quick meal, so if you want your oxtails to be nice and tender, they are definitely going to have to cook for a little while. If you have a pressure cooker, that may help cut down the time, but I like using this pot for my oxtails, this kind of pot. So I'm going to flip these. Okay, and I'm going to let them go again for another few minutes on this side. Okay, so after about another 5 to 7 minutes or so, this is how they look. So now that we got both sides done, what I have here are those veggies that I told you guys to save, and I added some water to it. So now what I'm going to do is add that in there. Now you don't have to add, this depends on how much gravy you want for your oxtails. So if you don't want too much gravy, you don't have to add that much water. And plus these make their own water. As you can see, they're starting to release their own natural water. So you don't have to add that much if you don't want. But we like quite a bit of gravy, especially if you're making it like making rice with it. You won't want that gravy for that rice. So that's up to you how much water you add. So now what I'm going to do is let this come back up to a boil. So now what I'm going to do is give this a nice stir and cover it and let it go. Like I said, these are going to take a while to cook. So I'm going to turn this down to about medium low and let it go really slow so they can be very, very tender. But I'm going to come back in maybe 30 to 40 minutes and add a few more things. So for now, I'm just going to cover this and let it go. Okay, so it's been about 35 minutes and this is how it looks now. So now what I'm going to do is add in my ketchup. If you have a tomato, you can add 1 whole tomato. I have a tomato, but I like the ketchup better, honestly. So I'm going to add my ketchup. And I'm also going to add in the butter beans. And I keep the juice in my butter beans. And I'm going to add the whole can of that. And I'm going to mix this up very well. And guys, again, I have my pepper in here. I said this in other videos. If you do not want this spicy, do not bust the pepper. You see how I just got it flat in there? It just flattens up and it just releases the flavor. I'm going to bust mine later. Only because I don't want the entire pot to be spicy because of the kids. But I do want my individual, you know, plate to be spicy. So I'm just not going to bust it now. I'm going to bust it afterwards. So I'm going to give this a really good stir. And I'm going to cover it back up and let it keep going because it is still not done yet. So what I forgot to mention is, you guys see it is a little watery now. By the end, like the butter beans is going to help thicken it up. And I'm also adding carrots in here. That's going to also help thicken it up. The ketchup helps thicken it up. And the cooking process thickens it up. So it is a lot thicker than it was when we first started. But it's not quite as thick as I would like it. So by the time this is done, it will be thick. So don't worry if it looks a little watery now. So like I said, I'm going to cover this. Let it come back up to a boil, cover it, and I'll be back. Okay, so it's been about another 30 minutes. And what I'm going to do is just, let me focus the camera. I'm going to stir these. As you can see, the sauce is getting very thick. That's how I like it. These are still not done yet, but the sauce is thickening up. And that's why you add the water, because a lot of the water does cook out of there. So you're not going to end up with as much gravy as you first started with, and then it's going to thicken up. So you want to come back about every 15-20 minutes or so and stir these, because you don't want them to stick to the bottom of the pan. So you just stir them and then cover it back up and let them keep going. Also, guys, what I'm going to do is take this pepper out because it's starting to bust. So if yours start to bust, you want to take it out so that those seeds do not get in there and make it too spicy. So now that's what I'm going to do. But of course, if you want it spicy, leave this in. But I'm just going to take this out and leave it on the side for now because it started to bust. So now, since my oxtails still aren't done yet and this gravy has begun to get really thick, I'm going to add just a little bit of water to loosen the gravy up. That way it does not all cook out. You don't want all the liquid to cook out. So you can add water a little bit at a time if you need, so that it can finish cooking. Just a little bit. And you want to make sure you're adding warm water or hot water, like boiling water. You don't want to add cold water to this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is give it a taste test and see if I need to add anything. And I'm also going to add my salt in. I did not add salt in the beginning because I like to add my salt kind of towards the end or while it's cooking, because all the other seasonings have salt in it and I don't want it to be too salty. So there, I added some salt. I'm going to stir this up and taste it and see if it needs anything. And I'm also going to add my carrots in at this point too, because you want to give your carrots time. If you're using fresh carrots, if you have the frozen carrots, you can add those closer to the end because they're already done. But I have the fresh carrots, so I'm going to add them now so I can give them time to soften up. So let me taste this. All right, that's really good. So I'm not going to add anything. I'm just going to add the carrots. Okay, so now I have my carrots here that I'm about to add. I washed them. I peeled that outer layer off and I chopped them up. I'm just going to add those in there. and mix this up. And now you can see that all the onions and those peppers and stuff cooked down, so you can barely even see them now. So literally all we're waiting for this to do are the oxtails to get nice and tender and kind of falling off the bone. So I'm just going to mix this up, and I'm going to cover this back up and let it keep going. I'll say about another 40-45 minutes, but in between that time you want to come back every 10 to 15 minutes and stir so that they do not stick at the bottom. But you want to keep your fire low because you want these to cook very low and very slow, but still come back to stir so that they do not stick to the bottom of the pan. Okay guys, so it's been about another 45 or 50 minutes, and I've been stirring it every about 10 to 15 minutes. And this is how I like mine. I'm going to show you guys. They are nice and tender. Let me see, let me get a good one for y'all. Just like that. They are nice and tender, able to come off the bone. You barely have to bite into it, and it's very soft and very tender. Sorry, I'm recording with one hand. I'm trying to get a good angle for y'all. But as you can see, they're all coming off the bone nice and easily. If you want them like completely off the bone, which I don't like them like that, because then all the meat comes off the bone and just be at the bottom of the pot and you're just left with the bones. So I cook them right before then. All the vegetables cook down. You don't see any of the onions or the green peppers in there. And now you have this really thick, I told you guys that it's gonna thicken up. You have this really thick gravy to go over your rice or your mac and cheese or whatever you're gonna pair it with. And that's basically it. So if you guys like this recipe, and if you tried this recipe out, let me know down in the comments. Let me know how you like them. I'm gonna see you guys in the next video.